And with that, listeners, welcome back to the Farm4Profit Podcast. We are here to preface questions with questions so we don't offend anybody.
It must take 45 seconds to get to the question.
That'd be good.
Whoa. Settle a little down there. Settle a little down. And you
Then it's a real question.
And you say I talk too fast. So, yeah.
Yeah, just imagine how long
Just
it would take
imagine-
for him to get to a question if he didn't talk that fast.
Yeah.
It'd be like 1:10 seconds.
Oh, I know some creators that'd be like, all right, come on, get
Hey, don't we
that's
get
the
paid
punchline here.
once we pass the 60-second mark?
We're one of those moments to where
Not us. We're not us.
one of those moments to where I have no good habits either. My word "so" and my terrible transitions.
Oh, we all have.
We all have so.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we can't poke fun at each other, then there's no fun in that. So listeners, make sure if we do stuff like that, you poke fun at us, and it might go up on the board.
Yeah.
Just like that listener review. Coming in from area code 612. Thanks for leaving those 515-207-9640.
Most of the shows, you guys are great.
Connect at
At least tell us
farm4profit.com.
which ones weren't.
Some of the feedback that we have gotten, and Artsway kicked it off. So applaud you guys, the Artsway team, for the idea to bring in and talk about the history of art. Not like on a wall, but like the man who made it his way. Because then we did a history of Hagee show, and we also did there's another one we kind of explored the history of, but our listeners are loving those. We've got one after this. It's going to come out about the history of the Albert City Threshermen's event.
Yeah.
A lot of old equipment run up there.
That's not too far away from us. That's a fun one.
Yes. So we're excited to do that, but also excited that you brought us one of your friends who's kind of a friend of ours.
Yeah.
And he's going to be even more of a friend by the time the show's over. Corey,
Yes.
fire away.
So Jim's not going to get a big introduction here, but I do want everyone to know Mr. Jim Cronk is here from Artsway.
I'm a sidebar.
And he brought us this introduction. Today on the Farm for Fun show, we head way up to North Dakota, and we are going to have a great beat-off.
Oh, shit.
Pause for effect. Sugar beets is what we're talking about. To a farmer up there, you guys know him. He's all over the socials. He farms sugar beets, wheat, sunflower, soybeans, and a bunch of dry edible beans. Please welcome from North Dakota, Beet Farmin Mitch.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to be here, guys. Thank you for having me, and excited to talk about sugar and sugar beets today. And, like you said, we farm a lot of different crops, but, sugar beets is kind of our niche a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I created my social media stuff. I liked to focus on the sugar beets, because a lot of people don't know where sugar comes from and how it's grown and how important that is to us up there and to the U.S. sugar supply.
And a lot of people think when they think of sugar, don't even think of sugar beets. They think of sugar cane, right?
Yep.
You can make sugar from a lot of things.
Right. Yep.
High fructose corn syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I want to know, God, I did it again. I got to get rid of that stupid
There's no way.
two-letter
Wait.
word.
Don't even worry about it. There's
Don't even worry about it.
Doesn't
It-
happen.
Don't worry about your transition words. Like there's
It
a million of them
happens.
out there. Just pick one and stick with it.
When you set out into social media, we're going to get into how your farm's all set up, but I want to know, how did you avoid all of the childhood boy humor when picking your username? You didn't have anything in there that used the word off.
Yeah, I guess. So when I created my social media channel, a big part of my goal was to kind of show my life values, right? And so the classic faith family farming is kind of what I focus on. So my faith is kind of what drives me. That's what keeps me going, and very family orientated, and then farming, right? And so with that, I try to keep it family friendly.
Well, I towed that line.
Sorry to friends and family. You might.
You guys do say that though, right? Like
Listener
I feel like
discretion
every
is
sugar
advised.
beet person
There's
I've
like
ever.
sugar beet, like literally radio stations in our areas
yeah.
do like sugar beet harvest shows.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty wild.
It is like Opie and Anthony circa 2002 on some of those radio shows. I've heard some of the ads. They push the envelope a little bit.
Yeah. Well, if you can't make fun of it,
The harvest show.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be that way. So now let's talk about little Mitch. Grew up on the farm, multi-generation. Tell us a little bit about how you grew up.
Yeah, great question. So I'm a 6th generation family farmer. And so my family first came back over from Czechoslovakia back in 1863. Now this is where it gets fun to be back in Iowa here for a little bit, is because originally they settled near Spillville, Iowa, kind of by Decorah there.
Yeah.
And so that's where my family originally settled, and they farmed 40 acres there. And they were there for 13 years. And times were kind of tough, and there was a wagon train leaving Spillville, going up to the region where I farm in the northeast corner of the Red River Valley of North Dakota. And so Spillville, that's kind of a Czech community.
Yeah, that's what it said when I Googled it. The first thing that popped up.
Yeah.
Yep. So then my family ended up hopping on this wagon train and coming up to where we farm now in the Red River Valley.
I just love it. It's a wagon train.
Yep. There's a book on it, like, you know, like how towns do like century books, like 100-year books. There's one called Wagon Train, and it's about all this.
Nice. Well, it's planting season for some, and others have corn popping up in rows. So I think it's time to start thinking about harvest.
Right. We got to think about harvest and what's going to go in front of that combine. Is it time to upgrade that corn head? Well, maybe. You should start thinking about a Maya corn head. Why, Tanner? Because Maya corn heads are awesome.
You can't say that.
I can say that. I can. They have a 3-year unlimited acre warranty. They got all the bells and whistles. If you ever have down corn, they run flatter, they run slower. They're just going to get that corn into the combine so it can do its job.
That's right. Check out mayacornheads.com or follow them on social media to learn more today.
Back into there.
Zoom in.
There's a couple bars, or there's at least one bar in Spillville, isn't there? Do you know? You probably.
I have never been to Spillville.
So I've
I have
actually-
on my bucket list
Food
of
and
things
brew?
to do,
So
but
I
I've
actually
never
have
been.
deer hunted with people up there.
Oh.
Yeah, I love Northeast Iowa. One of my favorite, Decorah area. Walk on.
It even has a ballroom.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Very beautiful country.
Probably don't include this part, but my last name is Dushek, and so you see it says Dvorak. A lot of times you get names that end in like Ek, Novak, Dushek,
yeah.
Dvorak. That's kind of
Oh, yeah.
We're like Polish is like the skis, you know, like
yeah.
Osowski.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Czech is always the Orak, like that type
Ek,
of Ek,
or
Orak.
Ek, I mean, the Ek, yeah.
So they just didn't like the ground in Iowa, so they said, screw this crappy ground, we're going to North Dakota?
I think it was a series of tough years.
Okay.
And it was just so that they had 40 acres there, and there was a chance to get like a whole quarter up in North Dakota.
Oh, okay.
Just the terrain up there is very rolling.
It's pretty rough country.
Not too far to limestone.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's really part of like the driftless area. Like you
Yeah.
get like Southwest Wisconsin, Northeast Iowa. Yeah, that's rough country kind of up that way.
So 5 generations ago, they moved to northeastern North Dakota. And were they doing sugar beets back then, or what was the crop? Do you know the history?
Yes. So back then it was a lot of small grains. Sugar beets that's a long history. I guess there's a lot to talk about there. Sugar beets have a lot of roots in Minnesota, southern Minnesota, not too far from here. I guess you would probably know some about that.
is it roots or tubers?
Technically, it's a root. Potatoes are tubers, yeah. So sugar beets kind of started in Minnesota 100 years ago or something. You know, they've been around for a long time. I actually did an interview with some farmers that had them grown on their farm for 100 years last year on my YouTube. It was really interesting. We did a panel, and they talked about how it used to be to farm sugar beets, and it's just so amazing how, things have changed over the years. So that was super fun. But yeah, so sugar beets been around for like 100 years, but our family started growing them 40-ish years ago.
So they wagon train up to North Dakota, got the quarter that they were looking for.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it just goes from there. So that would have been grandpa, or that would have been great grandpa.
Great grandpa.
Yep. Great grandpas.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was 3 Franks, and then my grandpa Joe, my dad, and then me.
Why do we do that anymore? Why isn't it Corey the second, Corey the third, Corey the...
Some people do.
Corey Jr.
Yeah. Just gets
That's scary.
I golfed with a guy last night, and he was a junior, and everybody calls him Junior. And I sometimes think that's a super cool nickname, but it's not. Is it a nickname if it's really just your
Your
real name?
is it a prefix or never mind.
Can you imagine,
Prefix,
can you imagine
suffix.
David Jr.?
Oh. Need any more Daves? We're good where we're at.
So your parents, they farmed and you grew up with that. And so what'd you grow up doing?
Great question. Yeah. So there was always something to do on the farm. Like many of us, we grow up working on the farm. We go ride with dad in the combine or whatever. And then as soon as you're old enough to move the stick forward, you're driving it. So, so I grew up, I farm with my dad, my uncle, and my 2 older brothers. So there's 5 of us that all farm full time together.
Wow.
Yep. And so like you mentioned earlier, we grow 7 different crops on our farm. We grow wheat, sugar beets, pinto beans, navy beans, corn, soybeans, and sunflowers. So there's always something to do when you got all those crops.
When they say they farm all those crops, he really farms 3 different kinds of beans. Is that just one crop?
See, that's a good question. You distinct them between dry edible beans or the soybeans is kind of, So you could group that into 2
But I'm sure you can't go
categories.
pick navy beans and whatever the other beans were at the same time, right? Like you have to keep them separate.
You got to keep
Correct,
pinto separate from everything else. Yeah, because you can't sell like a blend of beans. You have to sell pinto beans or navy beans or whatever type of crop it is. They probably all have to be separate.
Yep. It's a lot of cleaning out, switching things around, making sure everything's separated properly.
You said dad, uncle, and 2 older brothers. So you're the youngest to this entire operation.
Yep, that's right.
So do you get all the crap jobs?
Yeah.
Low man on the totem pole.
I shouldn't say that. I don't get all the bad jobs. I think we're actually very good about all kind of doing them together.
Does everybody else YouTube or just you and you're the anomaly because you had to find something better to do?
Yeah, I had to kind of pave my way a little bit, because everybody else is a little better than me, so I had to kind of fight for a spot.
Are they fine with you doing the social media stuff?
Yeah, yep. So like I include them sometimes, but I don't like go super out of my way all the time to include it. We all get along great. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't want to get in the way and stuff.
And you lean into the sugar beets. Is that because that's your favorite or just because people don't know about it as much?
Yeah, so I lean into the sugar beets because sugar beets is probably like our main crop that we focus on our farm. And so to me, that was kind of my niche. In the social media world, a lot of people talk about corn and soybeans. What's my niche, So sugar beets is kind of what I wanted to focus on, and I wanted to tell the story of sugar beets and how sugar's grown and where it's grown, that it's grown by family farmers, in the U.S., and that's where sugar comes from.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't know those kind of things.
I never knew really where it came from until I went to college at South Dakota State, and there's a fair amount of people from western Minnesota that went over there, and they're talking about farming beets, and yet it was foreign to me. I had no clue that people were farming anything. Like, I knew about wheat, oats, barley, things like that. Never had a clue about beets.
What's your niche? Pissing people off online? Or?
Piss people off. I think most of our listeners are probably, a lot of them, a wide swath of corn, wheat, soybeans, and we can understand, just even the dry edible beans. You plant it, you grow it, you spray it, you harvest it. But what is like the life cycle, or how do the sugar beets work? Do you guys plant them as a seed? Is it a plug? I don't even know.
Great question.
That is a phenomenal question. Okay, so sugar beets, right?
Yeah.
They're technically a biennial crop. So it means it takes 2 years for them to grow, right? Like, so if you plant, they're similar to like a carrot. So if you plant carrots in your garden and you let them grow all summer long, technically they shouldn't go to seed, right? Then they go dormant and then they go to seed the second year, biennial 2-year growth cycle, right? So sugar beets are like that. So the goal of sugar beets is essentially plant them as soon as you can when conditions are fit and let them grow as long as you can to get the biggest crop possible. That's kind of how sugar beets work. So time is important with sugar beets. It's not like there's a specific like filling time like with beans and stuff.
Yeah.
So sugar beets, it's just a time thing. We harvest them for the root, we harvest them for the sugar. And so that's kind of how that process works.
So you plant them 2 years ahead, or?
Okay, yep, that's where I was going with this.
Yeah.
So we plant sugar beet seed, right? Sugar beet seed is like the size of a piece of sorghum. They're very small.
Yeah.
Plant them like an inch and a quarter deep. So, you can imagine how it's like finding moisture for sugar beet seed in the spring some years. It can be difficult with that small of seed. And so it's important for us to have accurate planters, accurate depth, and, be able to put seed in at the proper time.
Are they planted in a row?
Yep. So we plant them in 22-inch row spacings.
Okay.
And so the sugar beet seed is actually produced in like Oregon.
Okay.
So
They do a lot of
you don't
small
do seed.
We do
there.
not do seed. We buy the seed, and the seed is basically it's got like a seed coat on it, small seed, easier to plant, things like that. But it's actually grown out west in Oregon, and that's kind of where they do the seed production.
And these sugar beets are underground, and eventually there's like a paddle type deal that digs them up. Do you spray them? I mean, are we spraying for weeds? Are we doing like what's typical? Like
Normally a lot of different passes through the field with sugar beets.
So you got 2 years worth of passes. What's that look like?
No. He's only 1 year, though.
Yep, only 1 year. So the seed is grown out in Oregon, right? They grow the seed or the plants for seed out there, and they have to actually start them a year in advance. And that's a whole different thing. They start them a year in advance, and then they transplant them back into the soil, and then they actually like swath and harvest the seed. And there's like male and female sugar beet plants, and so they have to like manage that. That's a whole different ball of wax. And then they make the seed, and then we buy the seed and plant the seed. You know.
So when you're going for like the root, you're only doing like a 1-year crop. When you're going for the seed, it ends up being like it's like a 2-year cycle to get like your crop off of it.
Yep.
Nice.
Are they genetically modified at all?
Yes. So much like corn, soybeans, they're also genetically modified just for herbicide resistance, things like that.
Any pest resistance or anything like that?
Yeah, so we can talk about sugar beet agronomy a little bit. Yeah. So I farm with my family up in the Red River Valley. My dad, my uncle, my 2 older brothers, we all get along well, and it's fun to be able to make videos on it. They make their way in here and there, and very supportive of that. So glad to be able to represent them here today too.
Okay, so we know, based upon what you stated off, we're starting with tiny seeds. You put them at a very shallow depth. You're planting 22 inches.
Correct. Yep.
How many?
Why 22?
So 20 to 22 inches, based on research that universities have completed, they think that's the most efficient and effective place for sugar beets to be spaced.
Okay.
Got them planted. You go by population per acre? You're shooting for,
Yep, everybody does it a little differently, but pretty common in our neighborhood is like 60,000 seeds per acre.
Oh, that's not
so
very
22-inch row spacing, seed spacings in the row is like 4.6, 4.7, something like that.
So it would be similar to corn almost, but narrower.
Yeah, narrower than corn.
Yeah.
Is it a special plate in the planter?
Yeah, great question. So we have to really focus on using accurate planters, right? So a lot of the planters you see in our neighborhoods, either John Deere or monosem, those planters that can really handle small seed well. So we have monosem planters on our farm. They're like kind of vegetable planters. So that's why we run those. A lot of people aren't super common with those, but they're very common where we farm because we need accurate planters, accurate seed spacing, and accurate depth. Because if you don't have accurate seed spacing, what happens is you can get sugar beets that are either not spaced right, or some can get really big and some can be really small. And then when you top them at harvest, you'll have like leafy green tops on the short ones, and then the top ones, the top could get cut off more. So it's really, it's good to have an even stand and even growth in your sugar beet crop.
Yeah, the planter in my garden, i.e. my fingers, don't evenly space my radishes, and that's what happens to my radishes. I'll have some nice, beautiful-looking ones, and I'll have the others that are looking for room, and they don't look as pretty as the ones you see in the grocery store. I assume uniform sugar beets is part of how you get graded at harvest.
Yep, so that has an impact on your sugar percent. And so let's just kind of walk through the growth cycle of a sugar beet, right? So sugar beet, to kind of summarize this, sugar beets are biennials, but we only grow them as an annual. So we plant the seed that is grown by different companies out in the western part of the U.S., and they make the seed, and we plant the seed, and the seed grows for the root. So it doesn't like go to seed in our fields or anything. It's like if you plant a carrot in your garden, it's just a carrot. In October, it's a carrot.
Yep.
When we plant our sugar beets end of April, early May, they grow all summer, and in October, it's just like imagine a carrot that's white, that's big, and has like 16 to 20% sugar content.
Yeah.
And then we harvest the sugar beet, and that's what a sugar beet is, essentially.
I always got told like the old adage is like you want 20-20 beets was what it used to be. You wanted 20% sugar and 20 tons per acre. I know that might be a little bit different now, but that's what I always got told when I first kind of started with Art's Way or like learning about it was 20-20 beets is what you were looking for. It was like a good benchmark. Does that still kind of hold true?
No. 20%.
I'm way off.
20% sugar definitely is good. 20 tons is not good right now.
Yeah,
it would be hard to pencil that out.
Last year, you guys had some stuff that was like 40 to 45 tons in some spots, right?
Yeah, there was some areas that kind of close to that 40-ton mark. So that's a huge crop. Typically 30 tons an acre, somewhere in there. In the 30s is pretty standard with that 16 to 20% sugar. Really depends on the year. If we have a very wet year, that sugar percent will actually be lower, closer to like 16.
Just because it's more water?
Yep, it's more water. It's interesting because if they do like samples throughout the year, I should mention we grow sugar beets for American Crystal Sugar Company, which is a cooperative structure.
Yeah.
So the farmers own this sugar company, and it's been a cooperative for about 50 years now.
So do you help set the prices then, or is it publicly traded like Chicago Board of Trade for
That's a great question. One nice thing about growing sugar beets is you don't have to worry about the marketing from the farmer side. So essentially, the main thing the farmer's responsible for is growing the crop and delivering it at the proper time in the proper condition. And so then the American Crystal Sugar does they do all the marketing and managing of like the factories and the slicing and all that. We don't have to get involved in that. But like since farmers own the company, they like to, I should back up a bit. So the farmers own the co-op, and so we can go see the factories and they give us tours and stuff, and it's super fun that it's like all family farmers that, are making sugar up there. And yeah.
We'll come back to the marketing because I still want to follow this plant from, planting to harvest. We've got it in the ground. We know it's got to be planted evenly. The spacing matters immensely to uniformity. It's shallow depth, searching for moisture. It pops out of the ground. What's management look like once it's growing?
Yeah, once it starts growing, it's the common insects, weeds, diseases. It's managing all of that kind of stuff. A couple of the big diseases we have are, the biggest one is Cercospora leaf spot. It's like a leaf spot disease.
Spell that, Dave.
Starts with a C.
L-E-A-F. I got the leaf. I got the leaf portion.
Yeah, so Cercospora leaf spot is our biggest disease that we have to face with sugar beets. That's more of a July timing thing that we got to manage that. There's also a fly. It's like a house fly, sugar beet root maggot. That's a big problem. That's a June kind of issue to manage that. And then Rhizoctonia, that's a root disease that can cause problems, especially on wet years. Mm-hmm. Let's see, what else do we got?
And you're managing those with chemical application. This is seed treatment. How do you battle?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of it is a balanced plan. So picking good varieties that have strong resistance to Cercospora. Mm-hmm. Picking good varieties that have strong resistance to Rhizoctonia. Picking varieties is important, and each year the varieties continue to get better, so that's helps us in that department. For sugar beet root maggot, so the sugar beet root maggot fly is a fly in June that we have to deal with, and so that one we have to use insecticide or seed treat kind of to take care of that one. So early on in the season, and then of course we got to deal with weed pressure with different herbicides and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it can be tough. It's a lot to stay on top of to make sure we can keep the beets going. It's a lot of moving parts to manage.
Just like on Corey's farm, somebody must live in the sprayer.
That's what it feels like
all summer.
You guys want to hear my sugar beet story?
Sure. Yes.
So when I was 14, I worked at Hardee's, Dilworth, North Dakota. They do a lot of sugar beets, or Dilworth, Minnesota, sorry, right across the border from Fargo, North Dakota. And these guys would drive through with these awesome trucks, like F-350s, F-250s. And I, as a kid, was like, man, I want one of those trucks. Like, so awesome. 4-door, crew cab, long box, clearance lights. I was like, man, what do you do? And they come through drive-through, and they'd order like, I need 15 Monster Burgers. I'm like, who the hell orders 15 Monster Burgers? Well, they had a whole sugar beet crew that everybody was out driving, and a lot of people did that as sugar beet drivers, just like we haul grain. They did that. I'm like, man, who are these people that keep ordering like huge orders for what most people did at Hardee's? And they had badass trucks. So that's my story with sugar beets. I wanted to be a sugar beet guy because they had badass trucks.
It's a staple, apparently. You got to have badass truck to be a sugar beet farmer?
Maybe it's just farmers in general.
Well,
but
if you've been around for sugar beet harvest on a muddy year, you kind of need it to get through the field.
And some of them guys, to get through the field and to get where stuff's going on, because, I mean, you guys run pretty much 24-hour shifts, so things don't stop, and depending on the conditions, you need a pretty big pickup to try and get out there. And there's actually a great video of there's this group, the Sugar Beet Mafia, the Goditis.
Really?
Yes, the Goditises. They put out a YouTube video a couple years ago. There's a video of one of them in like a Ford Raptor. I think he's doing about 70, 75 miles per hour across the field to go get to the next machine to help fix it. So, yeah, you're not too far off with that, Dave.
I love their trucks. And the guy was encouraging. He's like, keep working hard and like you'll get one. Well, I now have one of those trucks, and I literally drove through drive-through the other day, and a kid's like, man, I love your truck. And I'm like, I was you, man, when I was 14.
A sugar beet farmer.
I was like, yes, you can do it too. You can do it. Work hard.
Everybody just wants a big pickup. All walks of life. Everybody wants
sugar
a big
beet
pickup.
mafia.
Right after Leanne Rhymes came through there.
You guys and Leanne Rhymes. She was the kind back in the day.
Dave's got a lot of drive-through stories.
So as we're working through the life cycle of a sugar beet, right? So we've gone through planting, we've gone through kind of taking care of them in the summer. Sugar beet harvest, we have kind of two harvests, right? There's a pre-harvest, we call it, and then there's a main campaign. So the pre-harvest typically starts mid-August. So that's actually when we start harvesting beets, but it's kind of off and on for farmers from August 15th to October 1st. Okay, so that's the pre-harvest. So that's when the factories kind of get started up for the winter and they start slicing some of the crop. You know, it gives the farmers a chance to kind of get the headlands off, get the fields opened up, and to start processing the sugar beets. And then once we hit October 1st, that's what we call the main campaign. So the main sugar beet harvest campaign starts October 1st, and some growers run 12 hours a day and some growers run 24 hours a day. It just kind of, every operation's different, you know. We have a lot to do, so we have to run 24 hours a day. So that's the main, that's like going to war, boys. That's quite the run.
Kiss your wives and tell them you'll see them in a couple of months.
Yep, right. So I'm on the night shift with my oldest brother Casey and then my dad. And so we're kind of the night shift crew, and then my uncle and my other brother Jason they're on the day shift. And so I'll get up at 1 a.m. and I'll go out and run the harvester from 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then I'm kind of around till early evening, and if things are going good and nothing's broken down, I can go home and get a few hours of sleep.
Holy smokes.
Wow.
So the main campaign usually takes, if it goes good, a couple weeks to get the whole crop off for everybody, but it can take into November.
Because this last year started off pretty decent, but then like the last week or so got wet, and that kind of drug on there, if I remember correctly.
It was a very wet and muddy harvest, that's for sure. So that was difficult. So that has a big factor on how long it takes. Same with if you have a larger crop, it takes longer.
Is there a sweet spot, no pun intended, like certain percent moisture when you're harvesting these, or does that matter?
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. Okay. Does that matter? Does the moisture content matter?
So the two main factors for sugar beets are tons and sugar percent. Those are the two main factors you go by. So you go by your tons per acre, and you also go by your sugar percentage, right? So if your sugar percent is lower, your moisture is probably higher, but it's not like grain where it's like, 13% moisture or whatever. Go by the sugar percentage. So you get paid depending on your sugar percentage and your tons. So it's always better to have a higher sugar percentage. And so like some of those diseases we face, like Cercospora leaf spot, that has a very negative impact on the sugar percentage in the crop because the plant is trying to survive and heal itself up from having Cercospora leaf spot. And so that can have a negative impact on the sugar percent. And also if you get a big rain, the sugar beets will soak up a bunch of water and your sugar percent will go down. So you don't really want to have a big rain right before harvest, but like you need rain because then they'll grow and they'll compensate for sugar later on.
Yep.
So if you have a drier year, typically less tons, but higher sugar percentage.
Are you watching the sugar content then, like testing it before you go harvest to like, this field's ready to go?
That's a great question. So American Crystal Sugar Company, the cooperative we work with, has their own like set of agronomists, and they do samples on fields, and they go and like pick, a row for a certain amount of length, and then they pick a bag, and then they send it to their lab and they do result testing, and then they get your sugar percentages because you get paid on your own sugar percents, but they don't, pick them in the field based on how you get paid. The agronomists pick the beets, and then they can do samples and kind of keep track of where the whole crop is. But then when you harvest the beets and bring them in trucks to the piling facilities, they take samples, and then they can send those to the lab later on, and they have to process a lot of samples to get the sugar percent, and then you get paid depending on that.
Then the focus for you, the push, this 2 weeks of madness is based upon we got to get done before the snow shows up.
I was wondering the same thing.
Why can't you just run 12 hours and make it 4 weeks?
Yeah.
That's a great question. So a lot of other places in the world, for instance, like in Europe, they'll start and kind of, spread out the harvest season, where for us, it's just 2 weeks of madness during the main campaign because we do a stockpile storage. So where we farm in North Dakota, it's freezing cold. And that's one thing, when it's like -20, -30 in the winter in December for us, that's awesome. Because we put our beets in piles, and we put like these culverts with holes in them under the piles, and there's these fans, and we turn the fans on. Well, we don't manage this. The co-op manages it.
Yep, the co-op does all of it.
And then it pumps all that freezing cold air into the beets, and it freezes them rock solid. And then throughout the winter, the beets are processed at the factories.
So when they say like we want the pile to freeze, like we want a good cold hard winter, it's for storage purposes. They want that pile more or less to freeze so it can store better throughout the winter. And then because of like the stockpiling, then we can only store so much. So that's where it kind of ends up being that rat race to a certain sense, is that there's only so much storage available. And like you've probably had some years that you've been cut off, like if it's a late going season or if there's a lot of tons. I've heard of some guys getting cut off, and it's like, yeah, you don't get to bring everything to town.
The goal with producing and growing sugar beets is that American Crystal wants to maximize the amount that they can process with their factories.
Yep.
So with any agricultural product, you never know exactly what you're going to get at harvest, right? So the idea is to make sure you have enough to fulfill your needs, to be able to sell sugar to companies and people that want it, but you also don't want an overabundance. And so it's kind of important to be able to find that balance. And so that's something that, has to be kind of managed by the company. And so as growers, you can't just, you can't just pick up. So you can't just buy seed and start growing sugar beets and expect to deliver them to American Crystal. So it's a co-op. So you have to either own or rent shares to be a part of the company to be able to sell your sugar through them. So that's how that works.
I've got more questions on that, but we're at harvest, and I want to. Do you harvest beets? Do you dig beets? What do you do?
Lift?
Yeah, all three I think are accurate.
Dig, lifter,
because you're not going in with your John Deere combine, right? How do you get them out of the ground?
Great question. So if you imagine, I think like a carrot. You got your leafy top.
Carrot's one of the coolest harvest videos I've ever seen.
That's true. Maybe this is a bad example. I've seen it both ways, where they cut the tops off the carrot and where they just pull the tops off.
Yeah.
So we don't pull them out, but what we do is, what we do for harvesting sugar beets is the first thing we do is we run a defoliator or a topper or a rotobeater.
Kind of like a glorified stock chopper. There's a lot of companies that did stock choppers, shredders, and defoliators. Like Artsway at one point, we had a full line of crop shredders.
You're just taking off the foliage.
Yes.
Because there's no value to you.
Correct. So we have two Artsway defoliators and two Artsway harvesters, and they do a great job. Nice thing about the defoliators is there's 3 drums on it. The first set is metal flails, and then the next 2 are rubber. So you got 3 rotating drums, where like a stock chopper you'd have 1.
Yep.
We got 3. Mm-hmm. And then there's also like knives on the back called scalpers, and that cuts like the very top of the beet off. That's like a place where there's a lot of impurities in the sugar beet, so it cuts the top off, and so you have just the nice sugar beet root in the ground, popped, ready to go. And then what you do is you take the Artsway harvester, and they're called lifter wheels.
Yep.
And the lifter wheels kind of are like a V, and they pinch the beet out of the ground.
Ah.
And then after you pinch the beet into the harvester, there's a set of like header rollers,
grab rolls.
They go through the Ferris wheel, we call it.
Ferris wheel.
Yeah, there's a cookie cutter on there. There's a lot of fun terminology on a.
Do we get any value out of the foliage? Do we make bales out of it, or?
Good question. So there is some like nitrogen credits that go back into the soil for it, and in our area we don't keep them for anything. We just work them back into the soil.
You do, okay.
But there are places that keep them for cattle feed.
There's some areas that they call them beet tailings. You'd get it, and then you'd have that for cattle feed for like.
I didn't know if
Are they harvesting that when they're defoliating it, or like are they picking it up off the ground?
Yep. I'm not 100% certain how that works, but essentially it's in those places that keep the tops for cattle feed. Yeah. They have like a special machine that like cuts them off and kind of like collects them.
Windrows them or something.
It almost have to be like in silent, because it's a wet.
It's a green.
It's a growing leaf.
Yeah.
It's the biennial. It's still. Are you killing the plant when you top it?
Well, good question. Yes and no. So when you top it, you got to harvest it right away. Because if you top it, if you like went and topped a field in August and left it for a month, it would grow back.
Okay.
And the leaves would start shooting new leaves out, depending on how far you damaged down,
Yep. How far down you cut.
So if the beet's in the ground, it's still alive. But once you pull it out of the ground, then you're killing.
Well, yes and no. Technically, they're still alive, even in our piles. Like when they're stored in the piles, they're technically still alive. And so that's why it's important for us to get cold weather early in the winter, because then we can freeze them down, and then they clinically die at some point.
Yeah.
Is that a reason we
cut
don't
it
grow
off.
beets in central Iowa? Because we just don't get cold enough, fast enough, consistently enough?
That's correct. Yep. So a lot of places up north, where I should say, where we farm up north, it's so cold where we can freeze them. Where like other places in the world and in other growing regions in the U.S., they can't store them like we do, and so they either have to process them right away, or they have to process them into like a beet sugar juice and then process the juice later.
Is there like other parts of the world that make sugar beets? Like, are we competing with Brazil or like we are in corn, or is this like just us?
Yeah, great. So we've kind of got the sugar
And
beet
soybeans.
grown, the sugar beets out of the ground, sugar beets in the truck, and we haul them to the piling facilities or to the factory, and then they kind of get processed all winter long, right? And so the sugar beets get made into table sugar, pure white sugar, sucrose, It's the same whether it's from cane or beet. That's a common misconception I hear, is that cane sugar tastes better. Not ripping on my cane sugar friends here. It's exactly the same, the pure white sugar, but a lot of people don't know that. Now, some of like the factories and processing equipment like can make different size crystals, and different things like that. So I guess you could maybe, pick based on crystal sizes, but the sugar is the same, depending on whether it's cane or beet. Now, they have different byproducts. Fun fact about sugar beets is every single byproduct from the sugar beets, except for the leaves that go back into the soil, is used in some way, shape, or form, right? So you get the main product that we grow is sucrose, pure white granulated table sugar, but there's also beet pulp, and the beet pulp, fun fact, is actually become really important to the racehorse industry and to pet food because it's high in fiber, and it also has some of the sugars in it in some sense to help with, it's like a prebiotic, so it's high in fiber and it's like a prebiotic, so it's top of the line like horse race feed, Kentucky Derby type horses.
I remember doing a lot of it with like show calf diets because it like be good filler, but then also like slick them up, give them a good shine to their hair coat and everything like that. So that's one of my introductions to it was beet pulp. You got to have it in show calf diets. It was a big thing for that.
Yep.
So if sugar gives you energy, do like the bugs in the soil, are they like super bugs?
No, I wouldn't say like there's any.
Like your worms go faster or something? I mean, do they?
They don't need biologics because they got
got it.
Yeah, they got all the sugar.
They got sugar.
Hyped up on sugar, like my kids at 9 o'clock at night when they shouldn't have had a pixie stick.
Yeah.
A couple more questions on the agronomy before I do want to go to the marketing side.
We skipped the answer to
Well,
the
he
question.
particularly skipped it.
Okay.
He wanted to talk about it later.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did skip that. I was meaning to circle back to it. What was the question?
Dave asked is there anywhere else in the world that sugar beets are grown? Competitors
Yep.
or
Yeah,
United
Ukraine
States?
used to have a fair amount of it, didn't it? They had a fair amount of sugar beets in that area. Ukraine, Russia, like Eastern Europe, and then Germany, I think, has a fair amount of that as well. Much past that, I'm not sure of who else would be like the competitive countries for the sugar beet market.
What is it? Latitude goes north and south, or longitude? It'd have to be on the same parallel, I would assume, for cold weather, being able to harvest and plant and grow. And
If cold is, similar, I would think.
More moderate temperatures are definitely better for sugar beets. And so if we kind of talk about sugar production in the U.S. and kind of spin out into the world here. So sugar beets in the U.S., the Red River Valley is actually the highest sugar beet growing region in the U.S. It's about like 60% of the total beet acres are in the Red River Valley. So a large portion of that is up there. That's about a third of the entire U.S. sugar supply just in the Red River Valley. And about half or a little over half of the sugar supply in the U.S. comes from sugar beets, and the rest comes from cane. So sugar growing regions, you got the Red River Valley, you got Idaho, you've got places in Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, you got Michigan.
The thumb of Michigan, yeah, that's a pretty big
Thumb
area.
of Michigan.
Yep.
And then for cane areas, it's mostly Florida and Louisiana, and there's some in Texas too. So that's kind of the whole U.S. sugar supply, but the U.S. actually does not produce enough sugar to meet its needs. So the rest is filled in by imports, right? And so a lot of those imports come from Brazil, India, other places. Those are cane growing regions, right? Mexico. And so that's one thing that's actually worth noting is it's important for us as growers and as family farmers to have a strong sugar policy in the Farm Bill, because it's been issues in the past where like other countries will take advantage of us, what's new, and try and take advantage of the marketing situations, and so then we get kind of thrown under the bus when there's big sugar dumping things and different loopholes that can cause issues in the sugar industry. So that's been some issues that the sugar industry's had to face, and so but we've done a pretty good job about making our voice known. So that's something important for us too.
Are you always going to roll your eyes when I switch?
Not
the
rolling.
board?
I'm looking at I have to look at your screen to see what it's switching to.
I just keep sitting over here waiting for when is it going to go and what is it going to say next?
Yes, it's a wild card. Before we get into your question, I want to give Artsway some props because you guys helped line up this interview. We talked a little bit about your defoliators. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, defoliators, toppers.
They look like a beast of a machine.
Yes, they're very sturdy built. Yep.
I do think we should chop stalks with them just to see if what it would do.
You can do it. You can do it, especially if you lower the front of the machine down.
Yep.
You could do it and then just lift the back up so you don't wear the rubber flails out so much.
The steel clusters is what you'd want to use for like corn stalks more so than like them rubber flails. But
So
yeah,
can you like bring
could
one down to us without the rubber flails, just like leave that part off.
I've got one up at Armstrong. I'll see if I can bring it down.
And then
you might have to tow it. They're kind of the sugar beet equipment is all very big, so logistics gets to be a struggle at times to try and get them places.
And then the harvester, like you kind of described, it is it looks like a hodgepodge to somebody with the untrained eye. It's digging in the front, and then the lifter part comes in.
Yep.
Because it's got to lift them back up, I assume, to separate soil from the beet.
So there's in a harvester there's digging and then there's lifting all at the same time. So like Mitch kind of hit on, like there's cast wheels up on the front and they're at like a V, like a pinch point. They're big steel cast wheels. Those are all ground drive. So after the defoliator goes through, that harvester comes in, and with that pinch point, it grabs the beets. You're going down the row, pulls them up onto a set of rolls. There's some spiral pieces of steel on there. We call them grab rolls. From there, they're taken to another set bed of grab rolls that are then brought to the back end where we have that Ferris wheel that elevates it up into some different scrub chain and into the hoppers. So the one thing about an Artsway lifter compared to some other companies out there is that we actually have like active cleaning, which is depending on the year, especially like wet years, that's a big thing for the beet harvest. With all of our scrub rolls, grab rolls, those are actually like cleaning the beets as they tumble through. So if you have less dirt on there, there's less tear. So that is something that you can get docked on if you have a high tear crop. So when you have really wet years, that's important that there's actually some form of like active cleaning with it. And then we have a heavier built machine. A lot of times that lends itself to those wet years as well. We get a lot of reports back of guys that are, the neighbors shut down. We're going for an extra half day, or we're going for another day, or we started before the neighbors when they had to shut down just because we've got an Artsway machine. It's heavier and it's able to kind of push through and get the crop in. So,
Mitch, how many trucks does it take, like on a quarter section? I mean, are you filling twice in one row, or like how long does it take to fill a truck?
Great question. So on our farm we've got Artsway equipment, right? And that cleaning part that you mentioned is really important. Mm-hmm. And so that helps get as much mud out of it as you can. And Artsway does a really good job at that. That's one of the reasons why I like it. But for filling a truck, right? So these Artsway harvesters, and the harvester is typically 12 rows. They do have 6 and 8s, but 12 is pretty standard now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they're 12 rows, 22 inches. So that's 22 feet wide. So you got 22-foot pass, half a mile, and it can be a couple semi-loads if it's a really good crop.
Per half
semi-load and some change or something.
Are you guys hauling it, or is the American Crystal?
So we own our own trucks, and we haul them either to the piling site or to the factory.
Okay.
I think our hopper on there comes out to be like a 3-ton hopper on there. So, but if Mitch, I'm sure you've noticed it from like harvesting, or like you watch some videos. It's not a situation where it's like combine grain cart where like you can make a round without ever dumping it. A lot of times, depending on the crop, you're going maybe another 100 feet if you don't have a truck before that hopper's full, and you got to wait for another truck to come and unload it. So it's depending on the
Similar
harvest.
to like silage. in a
Yeah,
way,
it's
right?
like
You
it's
got a
like
little
chopping
tiny-
silage. You got a little window, but not much.
Yep, 100%.
So-
That's why the dump carts are key.
Dump carts are helpful. There's gotten to be a big wave of different beet carts or dump carts out there that kind of can act as like your grain cart for an operation, so help you out. You don't need as many trucks going up and down the road, and also wet conditions. I know a lot of guys, they pull trucks to the field as well. It just depends on what the year is, but like they help you out. That if you get really wet years, it's like better flotation. You can get a dump cart or through there and utilize those as well.
It's important to get in and get the crop out and not leave it behind. And that's what we've achieved with the Estes concaves. I spend anywhere from 800 to 900 hours a year in a combine. With these concaves, we've picked up productivity. A 200-acre day used to be a great day, and now we see 270, 280. These are a game changer. If you want a machine that's going to put out clean grain every day, all day, it's a night and day difference, and anybody that doesn't have them should get them.
Jim, is there technology, like I'm thinking a combine, there's cart sync,
Yep.
where the combine actually takes over the cart driving and it will put it right in the right spot so that it fills it. Is there any technology that does that with sugar beets?
Not at the moment that I'm aware of. I'm sure you can, like you do like John Deere Sync, like you could set up like your tractor that's on a dump cart with the tractor that's harvesting. You could still probably make that connection and set it up. The truck auger, there is a little bit of a pivot in there, so you can kind of go back
Like
and forth to
silage,
help,
okay.
yeah, help load it, but there's not like a pure like syncing
That it just
technology.
puts them together.
Yep.
There's only 5 of you that you talked about active in the farm. So when you're harvesting, you've got to have a bunch of hired folks.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's all of us on the farm, my family, and then we got a couple full-time guys, but then you get everybody from your banker in town to your friend to your buddy to people that just come up because they know it's beet harvest and they want to make some, vacation money or something. So then they'll come and drive truck. And like I said, we run 24 hours a day, so we got to get 2 shifts lined up, running multiple semis and trucks
Yep.
and different things like that. So it's a lot to manage and figure out, but
I want to go up there and help him, but I want to
Come
do
on
like
up.
the
We'll get-
second half of the night shift. Like I want to start at 7:00 in the morning.
come on up. We'll put you in a truck, get you a hotel room.
Buddy of mine is
Go ahead.
Yeah, a buddy of mine. He's a parts guy up there, and then also like helps his in-laws sugar beet farming. So a lot of times he's dropping off parts as he's going to get in the beet truck for his own family. So yeah, it's all hands on deck when they're harvesting.
Hence 12 Monster Burgers. And they
12 Monster Burgers.
every night, it would be like 12 o'clock at night, right before we close. I'm like, who the? Yeah.
A lot of coffee, a lot of food.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yep.
Is there much tech? Like, we're going through the field combining corn and we know exactly what it's yielding. Is there that going through the field with a beet harvest, or is it just tons back at the plant?
Great question. So nice thing about especially pull type harvesters and the Artsway ones, it's nuts, it's bolts, it's bearings. If something goes out during harvest, you got that, couple weeks, 1 month window, you got to get it fixed now. And so being able to, as a farmer, fix those things is really important. When you start getting too complex, too much tech, that can be a negative thing. But there are some techs, like there is, I don't know, have you ever worked on like a boom yield monitor
We've
system?
worked on a little bit of yield monitors on the booms, which is kind of it's like a potentiometer or like a sensor that's getting like shaft speed, and then also there's load cells in there to try and get a reading on the yield like in the field. And there's a few things coming where we're working on like some like other shaft speed sensors or like bearing sensors. So we're trying to keep the machines as simple as possible, so like the reliability's still there, but to give it maybe potentially an indication of this shaft is slowing down. So you got, a belt that's getting plugged up or something like that. Because a lot of these guys, when they're harvesting, like, you're using some auto steer and stuff like that, and we've got hydraulic row finders on the machines, but you're almost looking back at that lifter 99% of the time to try and make sure you're not plugging it, there's nothing breaking, anything like that. So we're trying to introduce a little more of some of those sensors where it's, at least give you an indication of like trying to prevent it maybe right before it's catastrophic failure. So, but yeah, we want to try and toe the line of like bringing them a little bit more modern, have a little tech in there. But that's always been the big name on the Artsway beet equipment, is that it's sturdy and it's simple to work on. So we don't want to lose that. We want to make sure that is something that always stays.
With sugar beets, how do we get more yield? Is there a special formula? I mean, you already
Fertility.
talked, fertility or genetics or anything. I mean, or does everybody just get about the same?
It varies greatly. The biggest factors with sugar beet yields, definitely seed genetics is a big one. Used to say 2020 was a big crop, 20% sugar, 20 tons.
Yep.
Where like the genetics are in the 30s now. If anything less than 30 is, maybe getting to be not enough sometimes.
I remember 180 bushel an acre corn was dang good corn. Now it's kind of like, that ain't so good for northern Iowa.
Right. So seed genetics, managing diseases and pests is important. Being in the field early can be important, but sometimes that can cause problems too if you got to replant because of wind events or different things. We had to do some replanting this year, and that, beet seed's expensive. It's about $250 to $300 an acre just for the seed.
Right.
And then the replants, insurance covers some of it, and you don't have to pay the tech fee, but that's still like $190 an acre. So if you got to replant, by $50 an acre, that's not that
You want
fun.
similar fertility to like good beans, good corn yields?
Yeah, so kind of the recommended fertility guidelines is like 130 pounds of available nitrogen in the top 4 feet. So we actually soil sample down 4
Holy
feet
cow.
a lot of times just because the sugar beets go down super
I didn't
far
know that.
and can utilize that. And also the 2 feet sampling too, but it's not as much. One time somebody thought that we used way more nitrogen than corn. You actually want to run out of nitrogen towards the end of the season. Because if you have too much nitrogen, your tons will be super high or increase, and the plants will grow vegetatively, and the sugar percent will be lower. So you actually want to really manage nitrogen well so that your sugar beet doesn't have too much available where it negatively impacts the sugar percentage.
Okay.
So it's really important to manage fertility with sugar beets.
What about rotation? Are you growing beets on beets or beets behind corn, beans? What do you got?
So the minimum we can do is 3-year rotation on beets.
So 3 years of beets in a row.
No, like 1 year of beets, 2 years of something else,
Okay.
and then you could come back with beets again.
Wheat ends up being like a real common one right before beets, correct?
Wheat is the most common where we're at before. Also, edible beans work well beforehand. The farther south you go, like southern Minnesota Beet Sugar Cooperative, they do a lot of corn before beets. It's where we're at, that gets a little tricky, just kind of managing that. Moisture can be a little different.
A little tight on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it kind of, and we're more in wheat country than we are in corn country. So economically, it makes it, more sense to focus on.
You have the
making sure
place
you get a
to,
good crop.
and you have the place to, like, if you're growing wheat, you have more processors and more options to get rid of wheat than at times corn up in that area. So
Yep. So yeah, rotation wise, minimum of 3-year rotation. So like you can only grow it once every 3 years. 4 is probably like a good place to be. I don't know, get something else in there, plant some corn after sugar beets or sunflowers or something. And
And the main concern is like disease, or what? Is there a pest that
disease management is probably the biggest thing. Just, root diseases in the soil, just being extra cautious to make sure that we are sustainable as a sugar beet cooperative, I'd say is probably the biggest thing. So just trying to manage those things properly. So that's how that works.
All the pictures that I've seen that Tanner's pulled up all have tires. Do you guys use track machines at all?
So
On tractors or on any archway equipment?
we don't put any tracks on the equipment currently, but I know there's a fair amount of people that do tracks. Like you guys run some case stuff that's got the tracks on the rear end, correct?
It's like climatic. Is that climatic? Anti-climatic would be the opposite. Like you sit here and it just catches your attention.
It does.
Sorry, track
Nice.
question.
I like it's like a little sailor, a little break, a little breath of fresh air. With
A word from our sponsors, kind
A transition, exactly.
It's a transition.
So you use
tracks.
any tracks?
Yep. So we used to have. Well, we still have we have a Case Magnum row track. It's like a half track, tracks in the back, wheels in the front. That thing runs great in the field and worked well as a sugar beet harvest puller tractor. But on the road, sometimes high speed, long distances can have some issues with tracks.
Rougher than a cob.
Yeah. So kind of
Yeah.
moved away from that one a little bit and just put duals on the back, duals on the front. So.
I know we cut you off on a lot of questions.
No, I've been asking
One of the things I have heard, right, only through the social medias, is you are a part of a cooperative, and if you have a good harvest, sometimes you don't get to harvest everything because you run out of a quota. Is that a myth, or is that true that you don't get to harvest all your crop? If it's a bumper crop, you're limited to the number of tons you can deliver.
So it's really important that the cooperative factories can process the whole crop and not have a bunch left over that can't be processed, because that would be a huge expense to the co-op, right? So the farmers own the co-op, so we're all in this together, and we want to make sure that the co-op succeeds and does well, right? The co-op has a board and great leadership, and those are made of, the board's got beet growers on it and people that farm. And so that's really important to manage the company well, but we also don't want to be short crop. You don't want to run out of your sugar beets beyond what your factories are capable of processing, but you also don't want to have too many, because then it becomes into that you're just wasting sugar beets, right? So typically the goal is to harvest every beet, process every beet, and end on the perfect day. But when it comes to growing sugar beets that can vary in tons, it's hard to find that balance, right? Yeah. So usually within a couple percent, so sometimes you might have to leave like 2% or something like that. And sometimes, we harvest everything. Most of the time it seems...
Water balls flying everywhere.
Yeah, most of the time we harvest everything, but sometimes there's a percent or two or more that gets left, and that's just kind of the nature of agriculture.
So if you're that farmer that you have to leave you're just out of luck on those acres.
Yep, there's no...
You just sign up for a cover crop payment? Like, I got cover crop out here. It's just beets.
Just leave them there next year for seed.
Right, yeah. Well, actually, we have to remove them so that doesn't happen.
Oh, that's an expense. Even.
Yep. Well, we have to top them and make sure they don't come back if we don't harvest them.
Yeah.
So...
But then you got your rotation. Like, you can't even grow beets on that farm for 3 more years.
Correct, yep. So that's kind of... Sugar beets are high risk. They can be expensive to grow, and the goal is to leave as little as possible, and everybody's on the same page with that.
Yeah.
But sometimes if there's a super big year, you can't store sugar beets into the summer.
Why do you have to harvest them? Can't you just till them in? Couldn't you kill them with some chemical and till them in?
So great question. Killing them with chemical, probably not preferred. I don't know if that would work, I guess, or if that's legal per se.
Sure. Okay.
But typically the research people, like through NDSU and the university research studies, have said the best thing to do is to top them and leave them in the ground, and they kind of break down easier in the soil. Some people like disc them up and stuff, and then they're on top, and then they kind of turn into like a little baseball glove or something. They kind of turn into leather, and so that can be hard.
Probably
to
don't break down
the next
really well.
year.
Yeah.
So it seems like topping them and leaving them in the ground is the best if you have to leave,
Yeah,
when you said harvest, you don't have to pull them out of the ground.
Correct.
You can still leave them in. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yep. So if we have to leave like 1%, say, because it's just too much for our factories to process, it's beyond, the amount that can be done, then you would just top them and leave that part, and then...
I wondered if you had to run a giant rototiller there, because I would imagine if they do get to the surface, they turn into a giant dirt clod. But leather's a good description.
Yep. And some years if it's wet, like I was planting soybeans after a sugar beet field and we had to leave some there, and like the seed discs were kind of getting plugged up a little bit. So it can, it can be some issues with that, but I mean...
Does it smell when it's breaking down? Because if you do like radishes or turnips...
I've done that before, and that's got a very
it's distinct.
Very
next year,
distinct
it's kind of like a fermented sweet smell.
Okay.
But like when you're harvesting sugar beets, it smells like soil and sweet sugar. It's really what it smells like.
A few years ago, like we've gone up... We send up a lot of people during like beet harvest to help do some testing. If we've got a prototype machine, we try and meet with producers if they've got the time, be dealer support and everything like that. A few years ago, we brought back a few beets and we actually sliced them up in the break room, and I took a bite of one, cleaned it up and everything like that. It's the texture of like a radish or a turnip, but it tastes like sugar.
That's what I had. What does it taste like?
It tastes like almost straight sugar. It's
like a sweet vegetable.
It's a sweet vegetable. It's like instead of like that radish that almost gets like a little spice at times, you have like radish texture that is sweet. It's actually, I don't know.
I want to see that as like a sweet and savory dish.
I wouldn't want to eat like a half a pound of it myself, but it's not bad.
There's a couple, old school cookbooks that got assembled in the Red River Valley years ago, And I found a couple recipes that call for like sliced sugar beet in them, but it's not exactly something you'd go to the grocery store and buy off the shelf.
Yeah.
And slice it up and eat it.
Make a really good like spring or summer salad. You dice some up and put something on there with like some strawberries or something maybe.
Good.
You should have brought us a couple seeds we could have grown down here, like just out front for
For looks.
yeah, for looks. So
Put them in Allie's planters out.
yeah,
front.
Allie would
She'd
love that.
flip
You could have your own sugar beet harvest.
That'd be cool. Could have had a great beat off.
Corey's got a 110,
I have-
110 John Deere and
I
a little
have
mini sugar beet
refrained.
harvester.
I have refrained from the old teenage boy humor that I would normally be inserting into this. This is a family-friendly show.
It is, and that's family friendly. We're getting beets out of the ground. It's contracts, but it's based off of like how much ownership you have in the co-op. That's how many acres you get to farm get to plant every year.
So you either have to own or rent shares to be in the co-op. So if you own one share, you can grow 0.8 acres of sugar beets. So that's your maximum you can grow. And there is some leeway. So back to the whole leaving sugar beets thing, there is like a few, like if you want to plant 2% less because you think we might leave 2%, you can do that. But if we harvest all of them, then you're missing out on the opportunity for 2%
You're not penalized
more.
for not producing all the way.
Right. Yep. There's kind of like a zone,
Like
a
a-
planting
yeah,
tolerance,
baseline,
we call
yeah.
it. It's a planting tolerance, and you just as long as you're in that planting tolerance percentage of a share, then you're good.
What about markets, prices, demand? I mean, is the Maha movement, GLP-1s and all that cutting into sugar?
It definitely has an impact. I mean, I'm all about health and wellness and moderation of sugar, you know? Like, I had a slice of cheesecake to celebrate my second baby boy coming, you know? Like, I think it's one of those things where it's like sugar's in everything and just eat it properly. It does have a negative impact, but like, I mean, sugar's a part of life, just like water's a part of life, you know?
You got to live a little bit. I mean, you can't have chocolate cake or cheesecake every single day, but you should have a piece of cheesecake at least maybe once a month.
Right. Yeah. What are you going to celebrate your birthday with a carrot, you know?
Yeah. You don't celebrate with a
Are
well,
prices
carrot cake.
suppressed or demand suppressed from it?
Yeah. So like a lot of the other commodities right now, sugar is on the weaker side of things. So that's been difficult for us as growers to, you know, continue to try and make a profit on that. So things are tight right now in the sugar market and in the sugar beet market. So, yeah.
And you're got like a lot of that area is like, you know, diversification's always been a big thing in agriculture, like a big key. Like I know growing up, like our form of diversification was maybe not so many different crops, but it's like you had livestock, you had like, you know, had cattle, had hogs, had, you know, maybe like I know some guys had done some boar goats, different things like that. Like your diversification up in that area is like it hasn't always been so much like livestock centric. It's been more of the crop based. So that's where like you end up with like your family that's having, you know, 7-8 different crops, and that's your form of diversification. And from what I've normally seen is like, you know, if normal commodities are a little bit lower, the sugar or maybe the edible beans or something like that, they normally kind of make up for it. Well, yeah, we're kind of in an odd spot right now where kind of both are a little bit suppressed. So makes it a little bit tighter at times.
You know,
Yeah, definitely. There's been years where the grains have been tougher, but the sugar beet market's been good, and vice versa. You know, but right now both are kind of on the weaker side. So that's been difficult. And, you know, it's not like sugar is just in sweets either. You know, sugar's in a lot of different foods and whatnot. And so, you know, nice thing too about sugar grown in the U.S. is sugar in the U.S. is family farmers. It's grown ethically and responsibly. Where like you can't always say that for sugar that's imported, right? So like we don't produce enough sugar in the U.S. right now to meet the demands of the U.S. So the rest is imported, you know. So it's important to keep our sugar industry in the U.S. going.
What were you gonna say, Dave?
The young gal that we interviewed the other day, that's younger than me by a long shot, was
Not
saying
Leanne
that
Rhymes. She's
that-
the same age as Dave.
Jeez Louise. I see a meme coming here somewhere. But nonetheless, she said that she was here for a bachelorette party, but they're on this health kick because the next generation is all on a health kick to not drink alcohol, a lot of sugar and alcohol, to be healthier. They're going to do workouts every day. Do you think that generational gap is going to change commodities?
That's why I asked if that's cutting into it, just because Maha movement, you know, make America healthy again and cut out carbs, cut out sugars, you know, even these GLP-1 shots. Everyone's looking for protein. They're going on the carnivore diet and all that. Like it was a fad, but it's been around long enough that it feels like it's actually shifting the way people shop and eat.
Yeah.
Lot less people going out to eat, it seems like, because it's so expensive. So
Personally, I kind of like the mentality of like steak and potatoes for supper and slice apple crisp in the fall. A little moderation of everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think for a lot of years, the big push was like, high fructose corn syrup became kind of like a negative, like it's like a dirty word. So everyone's like, we want like, real sugar. Well, the sugar beets, that is, truly that pure form of sugar. So there's still a market and a possibility for it. So I guess, as a corn farmer, I guess I can take a little bit of a hit if high fructose corn syrup is going by the wayside and we make a shift that, we want a healthier version of it. And if that healthier version is pure sugar coming from beets, that works great as well.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about fructose, sucrose, glucose. That's another kind of sugar.
We all kind of forget
types of sugars, but table sugar is sucrose.
Yes, and it's all kind of different types of sugars. I always forget that myself, that it's like you talk about fructose and all the different types. Yeah, you guys, you have the true table sugar, and what corn syrup is a very different product.
what is it? C6H12?
06.
Sucrose
Yeah.
is C12H22O11.
Okay.
You got that memorized.
I think you should.
Yeah.
I did pull up a couple of facts because I was curious. You mentioned early on, 55 to 60% of the sugar in the U.S. comes from sugar beets. And before you mentioned it and I confirmed it, I didn't expect it to be that high. And then I pulled up, tell me if Google is accurate, approximately 1 acre of sugar beets will have 8,000 to 10,000 pounds of refined white sugar.
Yep, that's
That
accurate.
Is an absolute ton, multiple tons of sugar per acre.
It's 4 to 5 ton.
Yep. So you don't have to if you're getting in the 30s, you're getting in the 30s on tons for a yield, and it's 18% sugar. You can do the math.
Yeah, we're good at math here.
So fun fact about
I'm glad
sugar,
you guys are good at math. I'm not good at math.
Fun fact about sugar, since we're on this topic, brown sugar, is white sugar
comes
with
from brown
molasses
sugar
in
beets.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it'd be way cooler if it came from a brown sugar beet.
And then you get powdered sugar. This is where we can be friends here. You got sugar with cornstarch in it.
That's all powder sugar is.
I like powdered sugar.
You should fact check me on that.
Who even came up with, that's kind of looks like a radish. We should make sugar out of that. Like who?
So history of sugar beets, it's a long story, but it was from some plant around the Mediterranean Sea over in Europe. And then actually Napoleon, like France, he had a sweet tooth and they had problems with local supply in France of sugarcane coming in. And so they had issues with supply chains, which we're trying to avoid here now by growing our own sugar in the U.S. And so that's kind of where the sugar beet kind of got its thing and then eventually worked its way into Germany, I think, or went there before or after, and then eventually over here and up north to where I farm.
Well, the Google machine backs them up. Finely ground white granulated sugar into a powdery texture, then mixing it with cornstarch to prevent it from clumping.
That is powdered sugar. You learn something every single day.
Who'd have known? I should put that up on the board behind me.
Yep.
I'm kidding. I won't do it. I'm done for the show. It won't change again.
I'm good.
Are you?
I am good.
Any more questions?
All my questions are, I'm sure we could go into way deeper, but
We got a couple minutes, and I want to learn about the origin of you putting your story online, YouTube, social media. You mentioned early on faith, family, and farming drives you. But did it really drive you enough to say, "Here, world, I have no privacy anymore"?
I like you, Tanner.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that you remembered that that's what I said. So yeah, faith, family, farming, that's what drives me. A lot of my comments I get on my YouTube and Instagram channels, and when I meet people in person, they say that they're really inspired by my faith. And that means a lot to me because that's truly the most important thing to me. And so that does keep me going. That's the main thing that keeps me going. And being able to kind of show my family and document that.
Yep.
And then also to, of course, be a voice for agriculture, and then cycling that further down into sugar beets and how sugar is made. Like, hey, we're family farmers in the U.S. here. This is where sugar comes from.
Yep.
Eat it in moderation. And, this is us. We're part of the picture, too.
I know I've started watching more and more of your videos over time, and I enjoy it because like I like learning about different forms of agriculture, and it's a different form and different portion of agriculture that like I don't think is really well known, and it's so good to see a different aspect of it. I mean, there's a lot of different people sharing their messages, but you know, it's really good to see different aspects of agriculture and see the day-to-day of it. So like what you're doing, showing those day-to-day aspects of like your operation, and it's, you know, it's very similar to mine and everybody else's here, but also there's a lot of things that you do very different. So it's good to learn from that and see that, you know, there's a lot of different things happening, and it's, you start talking about how much sugar is produced, you know, you would have asked me 20 years ago, I would have never had a clue that only in some places 2 hours away from me, they produce that much sugar. So
I figured you just watched to make sure there wasn't a broke down Artsway harvester
well, there's that, and then also we make sure that there's no competitive harvester showing up. So
his eye on you.
we had a little bit. Mitch is a smart man. He knows what a good product is. So
Have you always
I don't
been
have too much worry about
Artsway?
it.
Oh,
Initially, well, there used to be like more beet equipment companies back in the day. It seems like kind of with everything, you know. But yeah, we've been with Artsway for a long time. We used to run 2 6-row Artsways, and one was blue and white.
Oh, that was
green.
One of the first ones that started with. That was like would have been an original Heath if it was blue or white.
Yeah, it was a Heath. Yep.
There's like 6 of them lined up down at Wapaton that I always drive by, and I don't know what they're doing with those things.
And then so did Artsway buy Heath eventually? Is
So
that how that went?
Yep, Artsway bought Heath, and then actually that Ferris wheel, that portion came from John Deere. So that if you ever go through your part numbers, if you see JN on anything, that's an old John Deere part number. So
That's cool.
we covered that a little bit in the history show.
Yep.
So John Deere used to make sugar beet equipment.
Yeah.
And they had like a 2-row. I think
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, they went up to like a 6 or an 8, and then that's kind of when they
and that's
quit.
a lot of that we purchased and got rolled over into Artsway.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Is there a way, if I'm shopping in the grocery store and I'm buying sugar, that I can tell it came from sugar beets or sugar cane or out of this country or in this country?
So yeah, if you go to the sugar aisle, a lot of times the cane will be specified just really for marketing purposes, you know, because some people have recipes that call for cane sugar, even though it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So the cane sugar kind of focuses on it being cane, you know, but it's the same thing. And then if it just says sugar, it's probably beet sugar. And typically when it comes to purchasing sugar in the U.S. specifically, it's likely grown somewhat close to you supply chain wise, right? So like typically the sugar flows where it's easiest to flow to, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So Illinois has like a large like sugar storage facility.
Oh.
And so a lot of it, you know, kind of works its way out to the East Coast to, you know, Hershey's, for instance, General Mills in Minnesota. There's, you know, all those companies need sugar for their products. And so they all flows out to different places. And then there's the bagged sugar that you get in the store too.
Is it shipped mostly on rail or a lot of trucks?
Mostly rail, some trucks, but mostly like bulk to like.
I can imagine you put that in a hopper, it probably weighs a lot.
Yeah.
It's probably very dense.
Very fine.
very heavy. Yeah.
Wonder what the test weight is.
A lot.
Yeah. Well, it's 99.9% sucrose. So I guess you could probably do some math.
Are we starting test weight chat early?
Yeah, we should. Test weight of a. How do you measure sugar? Is it in pounds, sacks, bushels?
Pounds or tons?
Tons.
Pounds and
Yeah.
tons.
By pound of sugar at the store. So I only got, I guess, one more question so far, unless Tanner keeps
I
rolling.
got one more after that. That's it.
Is, do you know how to beatbox
Ooh.
on your YouTube channel? Like you're in the beat guy.
I think that this is something I got to fire up for season 6 of Beet Farmin Mitch this year.
Yeah.
So I might have to
Find somebody who knows how to.
You're gonna
get you know, what if we got all the truck drivers together,
Yes.
the whole crew, and made like some like Peterson Bros style farming?
Yes.
Yes.
box?
Hey,
Maybe let's get them on the line.
collaboration.
I think you need to get a hold of the Peterson brothers, and we're gonna have the Beet Farmin rap, and then in the
Yeah.
middle,
Yeah.
you have to break down with a beatbox. The thing is you're gonna have to learn how to beatbox before
Beatbox.
you do that.
That's a great idea.
I think there's something there. My last question is, we've got a lot of listeners that see what we do online, see what a lot of our guests do online, and they look at it as a way to potentially diversify their operation. And it takes a lot of hard work to get there. What advice do you have to somebody that isn't sure they want to start telling their story and put it out to the public to get them started?
I would say just like every farm looks different, every person's story is different. So focus on what makes you. Focus on what makes your operation special. It could be like a farm Instagram page, like Thompson Farms or whatever, you know. Doesn't have to be some crazy personality thing, don't be somebody you're not. I think being authentic is probably the best advice I would give for that. And just do your best to be you and go forward with that.
It's so hard to not be authentic and do it for a long time. You have to be real. I mean, if we had personalities that weren't our own and tried doing this for 7 years, this would be an even more exhausting day recording than not, because we'd have to fall back into our persona and make it a deal.
It's a lot easier to just be yourself every day.
Right. And easier said than done. There's times where I'm filming and I do the one take and it's perfect. And then sometimes I'm like, I just keep stumbling on my words or whatever. Even in the podcast, I feel like I've said a couple things where I've been like a little off with.
Totally fine. We're all real humans.
Makes it real. Mm-hmm. I got the fact to send you out with.
Oh.
I figured it out because they don't measure sugar in bushels, but there's, according to the Google machine, 1.2445 cubic feet in a bushel. And 1.2445 cubic feet of sugar weighs 62.41 pounds.
Oh.
So
we have
test weight chat has started.
We're converting.
Test weight chat is started in sugar.
We found our common link there.
There we go.
Yeah.
So you can grow 62-pound test weight corn.
Oh, yeah. I've done it a couple times.
Yep.
Not consistently, but I've done it a couple times.
So.
All right, gentlemen, we'll start with you first, Jim. If folks are curious about seeing what these harvesters and toppers and dump carts, as well as the rest of the line of Artsway equipment look like, how best do they look you guys up?
Best way to go is artsway.com. Check us out there. We have an Instagram page as well. We keep a lot of posts up to date on there. Facebook page, we're always posting stuff, so it's always good to check that stuff out. We still have the 70th anniversary party coming up here, so that'll be July 16th. So that is coming here shortly. So, but yeah, if you want any updates on Artsway and what we're doing, it'd be great to check us out on our website, Facebook, Instagram, all of the above.
And Mitch, how do people find you if they've never come across your channel or your social media?
One thing that I love about this whole social media agriculture thing, you can pop and zoom into different places in the U.S. See what farming's like in Iowa. See what farming's like in the Red River Valley in North Dakota or Montana or whatever. Love that. So I kind of like to focus on the Red River Valley style of farming, the sugar beets. Mm-hmm. So of course I got YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Check me out and follow along, and don't forget to keep it sweet.
What's your handle?
Beet Farmin
At Beet Farmin Mitch.
Yep.
I love your energy. Thanks, one, for making the trek down to the studio. Jim, for getting him lined up to be here.
No problem.
And for being engaged and excited about it. Your story's great. It is certainly appreciated from all of us. I had a fleeting thought. I don't know where it went.
Do they make any alcohol with sugar beets?
So there was some people that tried to make some specific kind of vodka from sugar beets. And I don't know that it really caught on, to be honest.
I just Googled it. BET vodka is a notable alcohol made from sugar beets recognized for its smooth flavor. Never heard of it.
Oh, I do remember. I had two of them.
See? Helped them out.
Are you going to be at Ag PhD Days again?
I will be at Ag PhD Field Day.
That's right. We always say days. It's a one-day event. One time, one day.
It's days for us because we have to travel there and all that.
It feels like days sometimes when you're traveling all the
last
over.
Thursday in July. And then last farming question. Is there crop insurance for beet farmers?
There is crop insurance for sugar beets, and so that does help in a disaster, but sugar beets, there's a lot of costs involved, and when the profit margin gets tight and you have a bad year, you can go backwards. So that's a challenge with sugar beets at times. There was somebody that once said the hardest part about growing sugar beets is getting them out of the ground and getting them out of the ground. What he meant by that was getting them out of the ground in the spring when you have that little seed an inch deep and moisture's short on supply, and getting them out of the ground in the fall when it's muddy and you're knee deep in mud and fixing a wheel bearing.
Yep.
That's always when they go out. It's never dry when the store's still open to go get parts.
Yeah.
So our Artsway beet harvester store, great service up where we're at, and they're open 24 hours a day.
Hills
during
Inc.
Yep, Hills and Grafton.
Thing about equipment is it normally never breaks sitting in the machine shed. So
it does. There are times, right? We put
Except for
things
trucks.
away, and you pull it out, and you
Worked when I put it away.
Should work.
you sound like my dad.
It's because you were a different person when you put it away than when you got it out. You care more when you get it out. When you put it away, you're like,
November
whatever.
Tanner was a different person from April Tanner.
Yeah, we finished planting beans first week of June.
Yep.
You need to tag Colgate in this because I think Mitch has the perfect smile with the perfect teeth.
Nice.
So
Could've put a Colgate.
sponsored by Colgate. Sponsored by Colgate.
I do use Colgate.
Didn't know that you're going to get into dentistry
don't
modeling
know
here, did you?
How we could end on a better note. That was perfect. Thank you again. Appreciate you so much. The partnership with Arts Way. I hope there's a lot more to come. Go check out that history episode. A lot of our fans and friends have really liked it. We hope to do more history shows because of that.
And that art guy, he's kind of got that micro vibe on him. You know, your logo. I like it.
Yeah. Glad we started something there that it's like a lot more equipment history kind of profiles. That's good to hear. I'm an equipment junkie too, so I love to hear that type of thing.
That's good. Corey, what do you tell the listeners?
Crack a cold one. You deserve it.